In Romans 6:13 we read, "And do not present your members as instruments of unrighteousness to sin, but present yourselves to God as being alive from the dead, and your members as instruments of righteousness to God. For sin shall not have dominion over you, for you are not under law but under grace. What then? Shall we sin because we are not under law but under grace? Certainly not. Do you not know that to whom you present yourselves slaves to obey, you are that one slaves whom you obey, whether of sin leading to death or of obedience leading to righteousness? But God be thanked that though you were slaves of sin, yet you obeyed from the heart that form of doctrine to which you were delivered, and having been set free from sin, you became slaves of righteousness." Matthew 4:10, Jesus said to them, "Away with you, Satan, for it is written, you shall not worship the Lord your God, and him only you shall serve." No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will be loyal to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. So what are we talking about this morning? Wait a minute. I got to check my phone. Hang on a minute. You don't mind if I check my phone, do you? What are we talking about? We're talking about being a slave to sin through digital addiction. I've not done a lesson like this before, and there's a lot of information. I'm going to try to pace it, but I may elaborate on some things and have to go quicker on some. But I want us to consider screen time, excessive addictive screen time, explicit addictive screen time, emotional fantasizing, family situations, social situations, Christ-like relationships. One of the biggest things that a phone is, it's a coping mechanism, whether or not we realize this. So many times you'll see somebody go somewhere, and what's the first thing they do? They pull out their phone and they sit down and they start doing something on their phone. Why do they do that? So they don't have to interact with all the people that are all around them sitting there that we need to connect with. How could I be a Christian without focus on Christ? 1 Peter 5:8 says, "Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil walks about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour." A lot of the information in medical terms on here I got from this doctor, so I'm going to give her credit on a lot of these medical slides. But digital addiction, it starts innocently, by accident, text messages, direct messages. Then there's sexual media, social media. It's being put out there on everything, whether or not you want to see it. Then there's videos, movies, explicit matter, and each one just keeps building worse and worse. What makes this particularly addictive is that it's everywhere. There's novelty to it. There's an endless variety of whatever you want to look at, good or bad, from A to Z, it's out there. And the way it taps into the imagination through screens, bypassing the emotional depth of real life connections. Unlike natural rewards, explicit matter creates a feedback loop of instant gratification, distorting expectations of intimacy. So with sexual digital addiction, and we'll get into this later, but God gave us a sexual drive. If he didn't, there wouldn't be 8 billion people on the earth. But he wants us to control it. God's way is for man and woman to meet, to spend time together, to get to know each other, to make a commitment to each other, to be joined in marriage. And then they become one and enjoy the blessings of marriage. What this does, though, it creates a bypass. Uh, this is a simple illustration, and I have used systems like this, not with this topic, but injectors in horticulture, floriculture, and you would have a machine set up, and you have these different valves. You can shut off those top valves and bypass that thing in the middle. And basically, if you think of that thing in the middle as marriage, you bypass that marriage thing and you open up that bypass valve, and then whatever you want, boom, you got it. Constantly, 24 hours a day. So it starts off with using it. Engaging with digital technology or explicit material triggers a dopamine release. That's a chemical in our brains it's a feel-good chemical. Creates positive feelings, reinforces the behavior. It's there for a purpose. But then there's a dependence that develops. The brain becomes accustomed to this pattern. It starts requiring these activities to maintain a baseline level of dopamine. You might not feel as good or satisfied without it, signaling early dependence, and you need more. Then that comes and leads to addiction. This dependence evolves into addiction. The brain's reward system becomes less responsive to other sources of pleasure. When you become addicted to this, you don't want to do it the natural way. You don't want to do it God's way. You become addicted to this digital made-up thing. Activities that once brought joy, like socializing, exercising, working, going out, working in the garden, going for a walk in the woods. You don't see as many people doing that today, because a lot of them are doing this, walking around, looking at this all the time. This is because the high levels of dopamine from the screen outweigh the amounts that could be derived from real world activities. They don't want to go out and enjoy the real world. They want to live in a fantasy world. The brain now craves this stimulus more urgently, and resisting the urge becomes much harder. So you got a couple forces working. Your brain wants, give me more of this feel good, give me more of this, give me more of this. It craves this more urgently, and it's harder and harder to resist that. So all of this takes place like in the front part of our brain. It regulates decision making. We have to have something that regulates our decision making, or we'd just be out of control. I'd be waving my arms everywhere and talking gibberish and everything. But there are mechanisms in our brain to control behavior. And when we alter that control system. And when we alter that control system, it's like pushing on the brake pedal in your car to slow down, but the brakes are not working and your car keeps on going. So I used to like to do this, but I've become addicted to this. And well, I'm going to try this. I'll push on the brake. Oops, the brakes don't work. I'll go back to this. And we fall back on this as our default feel good. So we have use, dependence, and addiction. We talk about porn addiction. Unknowingly, many boys and girls stumble upon sexual scenes on the internet and feel the rush in their brains. And you think about, too, each year, when I was growing up, there was no internet. There was no threat of that. And when it came out, it's like each year things increase exponentially. More. Younger. And kids today are exposed to more than some 90-year-olds have been in their lifetime, because they have access to it. The one stark difference is that the contrived scenes of strangers on the screen distort the healthy response that is supposed to be reserved for an incredible human experience between two people who become intimate and vulnerable with each other. That's what God wants. He wants two people, husband and wife, to have this incredible human experience and become intimate and vulnerable with each other. That's the way God designed it. Satan comes along, oh, don't wait, you don't have to do this. Hit the bypass valve and you can get an instant rush. So sex is the source that dopamine becomes linked to early in life. The rush in the brain is supposed to encourage reproduction, mating, pair bonding with a partner. If you didn't feel an attraction to somebody, you wouldn't get married. You wouldn't want to have children. So again, God meant it for good. Satan uses it for evil. At first, the brain seeks dopamine from porn to feel good. As the behavior becomes compulsive, the brain shifts from wanting dopamine. It doesn't just want it now it needs it. I gotta have it to feel pleasure. And then, if the brain doesn't get it, they want more to avoid feeling bad. And you just see how somebody gets wrapped up in this. The transition marks the move from habit to addiction, where the activity becomes less about enjoyment and more about relief from discomfort caused by its absence. So it starts out, people do something, whether porn or a game or watching this or watching videos or any of that. They get used to it, and then they have to increase the level because those signals are going faster and faster. And then if they don't maintain that, they start feeling bad. The transition marks the move from habit to addiction, where the activity becomes less about enjoyment. Now I don't enjoy it as much, but if I stop doing it, I'm going to feel worse. So it's this vicious cycle. Again, God meant this for good, and Satan has used it for evil. What we take in the front part of our brain and with our eyes and seeing and thinking and this feel-good chemical goes back and it rewards our brain. You know, I'm just using this as an example. I like going for a walk in the woods. I go for a walk in the woods, boy, that feels good. That sends that signal back to my brain. I feel rewarded. I'm going to go walking tomorrow. Boy, that feels great. I'm going to keep doing this. Then I pick up a phone and I get hooked on something, whatever it is, watching a sports game, being involved in whatever, again, from A to Z, and you get hooked on that, and that bypasses that control, and we just get that rush then to the feel good, and we can't give it up. And when we try to give it up, it's like pushing on the brakes on the car, and the car doesn't stop, and it goes off the cliff. Digital addiction. This is one way you can look at it. The phone and the brain and all these circuits going back and forth and communicating. Here's another way you can look at it. Have you ever seen something like this? A group of people, there's people engrossed in something on a phone, and here's this young man sitting there like a rock. They ignore him. He's invisible. It's just so crazy. It's so crazy. How can those people have healthy relations when they can't relate to one another, when they can't talk to one another? But look at this. Have you ever gone somewhere and a family get together? First thing somebody says is, oh, look at what I got on my phone. Look at this. You have to look at it because they won't stop until you do. And then they sit down, and then what are they doing the rest of the time? They're doing this, looking at that. Or have you You want to talk to somebody, and you go up to them. You got something important to say. Don't have time now. I'm on my phone. I can't talk to you. I'm expecting something. I got something. I'm looking at something. I want to see how this game, this boxing match, this football game, I want to see how it turns out. Don't bother me. I'm on my phone. Friends, we're a slave to sin, and it's happening everywhere, every day, all over. How many times have you seen this? A group of young people. Again, when I was younger, if I would have seen that, then I would have thought those are aliens from some other planet. Why aren't they talking to each other? Two boys, two girls, probably looking for love. Again, looking for love in all the wrong places. They're looking on their phone. With continued screen access, especially explicit matter, you feel more mental and physical health challenges and need more screen time to offset them. It's a downward spiral that begins with dysregulation in the brain. And it's this way with digital things, with explicit things, with so many things. Have you ever seen this dysregulation of the brain? Have you ever known somebody that started smoking? They smoked a cigarette and they said, boy, that'll do me for the day. And then they wouldn't smoke another cigarette till the next day. No, they smoke it, they get that pleasure signal sent back there, they want another one, another one. And then people start asking them not how many cigarettes are you smoking a day, how many packs are you smoking a day? And that's not uncommon because they hit that bypass valve. They want instant reward, they want it right now, and they're going to get it at any cost. Cigarettes, somebody that drinks alcoholic beverages. People start off drinking wine. Oh, it's just wine. Then they want something a little bit stronger. Then, well, it's just beer. It's non-alcoholic beer. That can't hurt you. Well, then, I'll try one of those regular beers. And then, again, another one, and then another one. And then they don't go into a store to buy one beer. They go in to buy a case of beer or a keg of beer, whatever they call it. You go to hit the brakes and the brakes don't work. We've got to fix that. Explicit images are addictive. To your brain, they have the same effect as drugs. They hijack the reward pathway in the brain. Just like drugs, you build up a tolerance, so you need more images for the same effects. Withdrawal symptoms can occur when you try to walk away. And we know that with any and everything. Again, smoking is something that comes to mind when people would try to give up smoking and they go through withdrawal pains. So, is this just a problem for men? No. It's a problem for everybody. It's just as much a problem for women. This pushes people to seek even more the supernormal behavior for the same high. The front part of the brain, which helps with self-control, also becomes less effective, making it harder to resist urges. So the car you're driving wants to go faster and faster, faster and faster. How fast can I get this up? I want to redline my car and go as fast as I can. But oh, by the way, my brakes don't work. You know you're headed for disaster. So sometimes I've heard this, that men are more visual, women are more emotional. I don't know where people came up with that, but I know there's a lot of marketing geared toward that. Women are more geared toward emotional stories, soap operas, romance novels. I'll tell you a couple of way back stories. Back when I was in college, and at lunchtime, every so often I'd go to a bookstore. There were a couple of bookstores in town, and I'd pick up some chips and a pop and something to read. And back then, I don't know if there's even many bookstores around anymore, but say this is the size of the bookstore. You'd have the checkout counter up here. Maybe that section was the section for adult material, men's magazines, and it would have something over the front of the covers so you couldn't see the covers. Then down that side it would have hunting, sporting, fishing, hobbies, cars, magazines. This side over here they'd have hardbacks. And you know what was down the middle? Romance novels. They'd have romance novels down there. Why would they have so many romance novels? Because they'd sell them. A store's going to have what they would sell. So this same principle works with a woman on this seeing, getting that pleasure. It sends it back to the brain, gets the reward. There's this emotional fantasizing. These are two covers that I took screenshots off. This one, older woman, younger man, steamy romance. This other one, Too Good to Be True, a kiss and tell book club novel. So you got a place at work. There's a man and a woman there. The woman sees this guy, hasn't talked to him before, goes up, says hello. And you know what? She notices he's got the most beautiful, cool blue eyes. Just looks so sweet. He's got this big smile. And you know, I heard his wife is a louse. She doesn't treat him like she ought to treat him. And he's such a nice person. And this woman starts fantasizing in her head about this man. And what's the next thing that happens? They end up committing sin. Was she like the man that looked at a naked body and commit sin? No, hers was more emotional, but that goes back to that reward system in the brain. And Satan is going to use whatever it is to take us away from God's plan and go to his plan. Notice in Matthew 5:28, but I say to you that whoever looks at a woman to lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. I would say this is sometimes why we hear that looking to lust is more for men than women. I'll go through a couple points here, but notice the progression of this. Looks, lust, adultery. I see, I want, I take. That's the basic pattern of sin. It's the basic pattern of sin. And again, once you get in it, you want to push that gas pedal down. Let's go faster. Your brain's saying, let's go faster, let's go faster, let's go faster. Oops, maybe I better stop. Oops, there's no brakes. Look, lust, adultery. Whoever looks at a woman to lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. And why do I say this is not limited to a man? Because of that word, whoever. Whosoever. Whosoever is universal. It's all men, all women. In Matthew 19, chapter 19, verse 8, he said to them, Moses, because of the hardness of your heart, permitted you to divorce your wives, but from the beginning it was not so. And I say to you, whoever divorces his wife, except for sexual immorality, and marries another, commits adultery, and whoever marries her who is divorced commits adultery. I've never heard somebody say that only a man can divorce his wife because she committed adultery. The innocent party can divorce the spouse, husband or wife, that whoever is universal, all men, all women. I say to you, whoever looks at a woman to lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Women look at men, they check them out, you hear different conversations, you hear people make comments. But when we're talking about addiction, we need to tread carefully, because when sinful conduct is defined as an addiction, then that removes accountability for guilt and shame of sin. Addicts are not viewed as sinners, but as victims, and that removes free will. But at some point, one's addictive behavior was chosen, whether it was alcohol, drugs, lust, sex, pornography, gambling, lying. Sin becomes addicting, habit-forming, as one lives in sin and walks in darkness. An alcoholic, nobody took that person and put him on the ground and started pouring alcohol in him to drink. It was a choice. It was a choice. The alcohol, drugs, gambling, any of this. Romans 6:15, what then? Shall we sin because we are not under law but under grace? Certainly not. Do you not know that to whom you present yourselves slaves to obey, you are that one slaves whom you obey, whether of sin leading to death or of obedience leading to righteousness? So who do we obey? Who can we put this down? Can we put this down? Can we put down our computer, our laptop, whatever? Can we start talking to people and talking to each other and building those personal relationships that will bring true satisfaction and reward like God intended? Or do we want to hit that bypass valve? We must realize that when sin is repeated over and over, it sears the conscience, it hardens the heart, and it can make repentance impossible. We must be diligent to develop the fruit of the Spirit, especially self-control and discipline. Back to in class this morning, demonstrating the Holy Spirit by the fruit, by what we put in our heart, by how we walk, how we live our lives. Well, can the brain recover from digital dependence, excessive screen use, including porn and explicit matter? Yes, it can. Just like those slides earlier where we saw that brain and that phone and that circuitry where it's all connected, we need to unwire from what we've been doing. If you have a problem, you're wiring a house and something is blowing up, you don't have, you put a water heater on a 15 amp breaker instead of a 30 amp breaker, you're going to have problems. You need to rewire it. That's what we need to do. We need to unwire. We need to disconnect from this. We need to rewire. And then we need to hardwire. You know, one of the reasons, too, I wanted to do this sermon, I see so many things on social media. This is a big topic. A lot of people suffer with it, and people in the church suffer with it. And sometimes you see something that, now, if you need help, call us and schedule an appointment, and we'll be glad to help you for a fee. And that's from Christians. So stop and think about this. God created us. He let Satan come in and persuade us, deceive us to do something else. And for so many thousands of years, people were able to deal with sin with the Bible, but now we need to go and pay somebody to help us overcome this addiction. I have a problem with that. I think the Bible is fully sufficient to help us overcome our sin. If the Bible isn't, then it's incomplete. So can you really experience withdrawal from screen time? Yes, you can experience it. When people go away from that, you notice they're more irritable, they might become anxious, they might become depressed, restless. You may have grown accustomed to using technology to escape negative emotions or stress. Excess use may lead to social isolation or neglect or other important life. And it doesn't have to be explicit material. You might just be addicted to watching concerts all the time, or football games, or boxing matches, baseball games. If you're addicted to it, you're a slave to it. The other question is, what is this keeping me from doing that I should be doing? It's robbing our time. It's robbing God's time. It could lead to social isolation, neglect, other important life responsibilities. This happens because the brain's reward system becomes dependent on frequent stimulation from screens, leaving it less responsive to natural rewards. Without this stimulation, the sudden drop in dopamine levels can cause discomfort and negative emotions. So we want to get that little fix. A man wants to get it, a woman wants to get it, they get it different ways, but they want to get it. The way to get it is from doing natural things, and if it's talking about something to arouse someone, it should be with your marriage partner. So how does exposure to technology and media influence brain development and screen addiction risk? This is interesting. You know how old you have to be before your brain is fully developed? Brains develop until approximately the age of 26 years old. So from the time you're born until you're 26, your brain is still developing. How many little kids do you see? How many young people? How many teenagers? How many people in their 20s do you see that have this phone stuck right in their face? And with a lot of people, this has become the babysitter, not a phone, but a tablet. This has become a babysitter to replace the mother. Here, we'll put the child here and we'll stick this in front of them. We're going on a trip. Here, we'll put this on for them to watch. So we've got to be very careful with that. And you stop and think, so 26 years and the brain is still developing. And you know, anybody's brain, when they are exposed to something that it hasn't been exposed to before, you don't know how it's going to react, what it's going to do. But this, people know, and it's marketed, it's targeted for children. So this inherently is the most dangerous aspect of screen-based addiction. They prey on the young brain without anyone realizing it's happening. Early tech use impacts, again, the front part of your brain, which is responsible for impulse control and decision making, making it harder to set boundaries around screen time. So impulse control, decision making, those are two skills we really need to learn in life. Since kids' brains are still learning to make decisions and control impulses, it becomes easier for them to use screens too much, which can lead to addiction to explicit matter later on. The most disturbing part of screen addiction is that this dysregulation then begins to take hold in childhood while the brain was still developing, which means that many people have never fully developed their brain performance pattern. So you stop and think about that. All these young people you see out now, they aren't having a normal device, digital free development of their brain. Now again, you can go back and the brain is not concrete. The brain's not concrete. You unwire, rewire, and hardwire, and you can change your brain. But too many people get caught up in this, and they don't want to. James 4:4, adulterers and adulteresses, do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? Whoever therefore wants to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. 1 Thessalonians 4:3, for this is the will of God, your sanctification, that you should abstain from sexual immorality, that each of you should know how to possess his own vessel in sanctification and honor, not in passion of lust like the Gentiles who do not know God. I've got one last slide, and I want you to understand, I don't mean this slide to be funny. I think it's sad, but I imagine a lot of people in the religious world out there would just see it and laugh and not think a thing about it. And that shows how much people have been deceived by Satan, the great deceiver. Romans 6:16, do you not know that to whom you present yourselves slaves to obey, you are that one slaves whom you obey, whether of sin leading to death or of obedience leading to righteousness. Could you see Jesus doing something like this? Taking a selfie of himself with the crowds, or holding up and taking a picture of the hole in his hand. And see, people see this, and it just, not only do they laugh and say, ha ha, that's funny, it's a put down on religion. It's a put down on religion. And then people get used to seeing something like that. And then they see more and more, and oh, well, what else do they have like that? What else do they have? And again, the brain goes back to that wanting more and more. Friends, whatever it is, we've got to stop the sin, and we've got to take back control of our life. Friends, God designed us. He created us. He told us what is good for us. He told us what is bad for us. He told us what to avoid. And we need to go to His Word. We need to go to His Word and learn that, plant it in our hearts, and that will protect us so much. Friends, if there's anyone here this morning that needs prayers, needs to make confession, you need to respond to the gospel in any way, we invite you to come forward now as we stand and sing.